The silver ship came down from the sky like a falling star. It landed in the empty field outside Denver with a soft hum that made the ground shake. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the edge of the landing zone, watching the strange vessel settle into the grass. His German shepherd, Rex, sat beside him, ears up and alert. Jake had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. Ever since the radio signals from space had started coming in, everyone knew this day would come. First contact with aliens. The world had spent months preparing for it. And somehow, Jake had been picked to be the first human they would meet. Rex whined softly and pressed against Jake's leg. The dog could sense something was different about today. Jake reached down and scratched behind Rex's ears. The familiar motion calmed them both. "Easy, boy," Jake said quietly. "Just some new friends coming to visit." The ship's door opened with a hiss. A ramp extended down to the ground. 3 figures appeared at the top of the ramp, and Jake felt his breath catch. They looked nothing like the aliens in movies. That the first one was tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. It sparkled in the sunlight as it moved. The second looked like a giant insect, with multiple arms and eyes that glowed green. The third was shorter, and seemed to be covered in smooth, wet skin that changed colors as Jake watched. Down the ramp slowly, carefully. Jake could tell they were nervous too. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth," Jake called out, raising his hand in greeting. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison." The crystal being stepped forward and made a sound like wind chimes. A small device on its chest began to speak in perfect English. "Greetings, human Jake Morrison. I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephyrian people. With me are Hive Speaker Zach and Depth Lord Mirren. We come in peace to establish relations between our peoples and yours." Jake smiled. "We're happy to meet you. We've been looking forward to this day." Rex stood up and took a step forward, his tail wagging slowly. The 3 aliens suddenly went very still. Jake noticed their reaction and looked down at his dog. "Oh, this is Rex," Jake said, putting his hand on the dog's head. "He's my partner. He's been with me for 5 years now." The insect alien Zach made a rapid clicking sound. Its translator device crackled before speaking. "That creature. It is a predator. We can see its teeth, its claws. Why do you keep it? So close? Is it your slave?" Jake laughed. "Slave? No, Rex is my friend. He's a good dog. Aren't you, boy?" Rex's tail wagged harder at the sound of his name. Jake reached into his pocket and pulled out a tennis ball. Rex immediately focused on the ball, his whole body tense with excitement. "Watch this," Jake said to the aliens. He threw the ball across. The field. Rex took off like a shot, his powerful legs carrying him across the grass in seconds. He caught the ball in his mouth and came running back, his tongue hanging out and his eyes bright with joy. He dropped the ball at Jake's feet and sat down, looking up at his human with pure devotion. The 3 aliens had not moved during this entire display. They stood frozen, watching as Jake picked up the ball and threw it again. Rex chased it happily, completely focused on the game. "Good boy, Rex." Jake called out, "Good boy." The crystal alien Kethvar made a sound like breaking glass. You command the predator, and it obeys you willingly." "Command?" Jake looked confused. "I'm not commanding him. We're playing. Rex loves to fetch, don't you, boy?" Rex came back with the ball and dropped it again. This time, instead of sitting, he rolled over on his back, showing his belly to Jake. Jake knelt down and rubbed the dog's stomach, and Rex's tail beat against the ground. "He trusts you completely," the water alien Mirren said in a gurgling voice. "A predator shows you its most vulnerable position. This is impossible." Jake stood up, still smiling. Rex isn't just any predator. He's been bred for thousands of years to be man's best friend. Dogs and humans have been partners for longer than we have written history. Partners? Zach's voice was high and sharp. You mean this creature chose to be with you? Well, I got Rex from a breeder when he was a puppy. But yeah, he could leave any time he wanted. He stays because he wants to, because we're family. Jake whistled softly, and Rex immediately came to his side. Jake held out his hand, and Rex gently took his fingers in his mouth, not biting, just holding them. It was an old trick they had. Practiced many times, all three aliens took a step back. It has your hand in its mouth, Kethver said, his voice shaking. It could sever your fingers with one movement. But he won't, Jake said calmly, because he loves me, and I love him. That's what partnership means. Jake gave Rex a treat from his pocket, and the dog crunched it happily. Then Jake did something that made all three aliens make sounds of alarm. He knelt down and hugged Rex, pressing his face against the dog's fur. Good boy, he whispered. Such a good boy. Rex's tail wagged so hard his whole body wiggled. He licked Jake's cheek with his big pink tongue, and Jake laughed. The alien stood in stunned silence. Finally, Kethver spoke. We need to return to our ship to consult our databases. This is not what we expected to find. Is everything okay? Jake asked, standing up. Did we do something wrong? No, Marin said slowly. But we need to understand what we have seen here. We will speak again soon. The three aliens backed away toward their ship, never taking there. Eyes off Rex. The dog sat calmly beside Jake, panting happily from their game of fetch-dot as the aliens disappeared into their ship. Jake looked down at Rex. What do you think, boy? Think we made a good first impression? Rex wagged his tail and picked up his tennis ball, ready for another game. To him, it had been a perfectly normal day. He had no idea that he had just shattered everything three alien species thought they knew about the universe. Inside their ship, the three aliens sat around a glowing table. Images of Jake and Rex played over and over on the screen in front of them. Each time they watched the dog catch the ball and bring it back, they felt more confused. Run the genetic analysis again, Kethver said, his crystal body flickering with nervous energy. Zach's many arms moved over the controls. The results are the same. The creature called Rex is descended from apex predators. His ancestors hunted in packs. They killed prey much larger than themselves. Yet he shows no signs of aggression toward the human. The human called him family, Marin added, his skin changing from blue to purple as he spoke. In our language, family means blood relatives, those who share genetic material. But these two species are completely different. Perhaps the human has some form of mind control, Zach suggested. Some way to make the predator obey. No, Kethver said firmly. I scanned them both. There were no signs of artificial control. The predator's brain showed patterns of genuine affection. It was ... happy to be with the human. A soft chime came from their communication system. A new message had arrived from Earth. Ambassador Kethver, came Jake's voice through the speakers. We'd like to invite you and your team to dinner tomorrow evening. It would be our honor to show you more of human culture. The three aliens looked at each other. They needed to understand what they had seen, even if it frightened them. We accept, Kethvar replied. The next evening, a human vehicle came to pick them up. The driver was a woman named Karen Wright, who introduced herself as Earth's head of alien relations. She was friendly and calm, just like Jake had been. We're going to visit Pete Johnson's ranch, she explained as they drove through the countryside. He's a former military officer who raises horses and cattle. We thought you might enjoy seeing more of how humans live. Will there be more predators? Zack asked nervously. Karen laughed. Well, Pete has a few dogs and cats, but don't worry, they're all very friendly. The aliens did not find this reassuring. Pete Johnson's ranch was a large property with green fields and wooden fences. As their vehicle pulled up to the main house, they could see large four-legged animals grazing in the distance. Those are horses, Karen explained. They're herbivores, but they're very strong. Pete works with them every day. Pete Johnson came out to meet them. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. Walking beside him was a black and white dog with bright, intelligent eyes. Welcome to my ranch, Pete said warmly. This is Belle, my border collie. She helps me work with the sheep. Belle sat politely beside Pete, her tail wagging. The aliens noticed immediately that this predator was different from Rex. She was smaller, but her eyes were even more alert. She watched everything around her with intense focus. Work with sheep? Marin asked. She hunts them? Oh no, Pete laughed. She herds them. Watch this. Pete walked toward a field where a group of white, fluffy animals were scattered across the grass. He whistled once, a sharp, clear sound. Belle immediately ran toward the sheep, moving in a wide circle around them. The aliens watched in amazement as Belle used her body language and position to guide the sheep. She never touched. Them never showed aggression. Instead, she moved like she was dancing, and the sheep moved exactly where she wanted them to go. Within minutes, all the sheep were gathered in a tight group near the fence. Belle stood at attention, waiting for Pete's next command. Good girl. Belle, Pete called out. Come here. Belle ran back to Pete, her tongue hanging out happily. Pete knelt down and scratched behind her ears, just like Jake had done with Rex. She's been trained to help me manage the livestock, Pete explained. Border collies are natural herders. They have the instincts of predators, but they've learned to use those instincts to help instead of hunt. The sheep do not fear her, Kethver observed. They trust her, Pete said. They know she's there to protect them, not harm them. As they walked toward the house, two small furry creatures appeared. On the porch, they were sleek and graceful, with sharp eyes and pointed ears. And these are Whiskers and Shadow, Pete said, gesturing to the cats. They keep the mice and rats away from the grain storage. One of the cats, a gray tabby named Whiskers, jumped down from the porch and walked directly toward the aliens. Zack made a clicking sound of alarm. It's approaching us, he said. Is it attacking? Whiskers sat down in front of the aliens and began to make a low, rumbling sound. She's purring, Corinne explained. It means she's happy and relaxed. She likes you. A predator ... likes us? Marin asked in disbelief. Cats are independent, Pete said. They choose who they want to be around. If Whiskers is purring at you, it means she's decided you're okay. The other cat, Shadow, had climbed onto a fence post and was watching them with golden eyes. Suddenly, he pounced down onto the ground and caught something small in his claws. Mouse, Pete said simply. That's what cats do. They hunt the small pests that would eat our grain. In return, we give them food, shelter, and medical care when they need it. So the small predator hunts for you, Zack said slowly. No, he hunts because that's his nature. But his hunting helps us, and our care helps him. It works out well for everyone. They were interrupted by the sound of hoofbeats. A massive brown horse came galloping across the field, its mane flowing in the wind. The aliens instinctively moved closer together. That's Thunder, Pete said proudly. He's coming to say hello. Thunder slowed to a trot, then a walk as he approached the fence. He was enormous, easily weighing 10 times more than any of the humans. His muscles rippled under his shiny coat, and his eyes were large and dark. "He could kill you with one kick," Cuthbert said quietly. "He could," Pete agreed. "But he won't. Watch." Pete climbed over the fence and walked directly toward Thunder. The horse lowered his massive head, and Pete reached up to stroke his nose. "Good boy, Thunder," Pete said softly. "How are you doing today?" Thunder made a soft nickering sound and pushed his head against Pete's chest, nearly knocking the man over. Pete laughed and wrapped his arms around the horse's neck. "This is impossible," Marin whispered. "A prey animal that size should flee from any predator. Instead, it seeks contact with you." "Thunder and I are partners," Pete explained, still holding the horse's head. "I take care of him, and he lets me ride him. We trust each other completely." To demonstrate, Pete walked to a nearby mounting block. Thunder stood perfectly still as Pete climbed onto his back. Then, with just a gentle pressure from Pete's legs, Thunder began to walk in a slow circle around the field. No restraints, Zach observed. No chains or ropes. The creature carries you willingly. More than willingly, Pete called back. Thunder loves to run. This is as much fun for him as it is for me. As if to prove the point, Thunder began to trot and canter. Pete moved with the horse's rhythm, and both of them seemed to be enjoying themselves immensely. The aliens watched in silence as this display of interspecies cooperation continued. Finally, Pete guided Thunder back to the fence and dismounted. "How long have humans been doing this?" Cuthbert asked. "Domesticating animals?" "About 10,000 years, give or take," Pete said. "Maybe longer. We've been working with dogs for at least 30,000 years. 30,000 years, Marin repeated. Your species has been forming alliances with predators for 30,000 years. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds pretty impressive, Pete said with a grin. Just then, a small human came running around the corner of the house. It was Pete's 8-year-old granddaughter, Emma. She ran straight toward Belle, who was lying in the shade of a tree. "Belle!" Emma called out happily. The dog immediately stood up, her tail wagging furiously. Emma threw her arms around Belle's neck and hugged her tightly. Belle stood perfectly still, accepting the hug with patience and obvious affection. "Grandpa, can I take Belle to see the new lambs?" Emma asked. "Sure, sweetheart, but be careful around the mothers. They're protective of their babies." Emma and Belle ran off toward another field, the child's laughter mixing with the dog's excited barks. The aliens stared after them in complete shock. "A young human," Zach said slowly. "A defenseless child, embracing a predator. And the predator protects her," Pete said. "Belle would die before she let anything hurt Emma. That's what loyalty means." As the sun began to set, the aliens realized they had witnessed something that changed everything they thought they knew about intelligent life. Humans didn't just live alongside predators. They had built their entire civilization around partnerships with creatures that should have been their enemies. And somehow it worked. 3 days after the ranch visit, the alien delegation requested an emergency meeting. They sat in a conference room at the United Nations building in New York, their translator devices working overtime as they tried to process what they had learned. "We need to understand your history," Cuthbert said, his crystal form flickering with anxiety. "How did your species develop these relationships with predators? When did it begin?" Dr. Richard Stone, a historian who specialized in human-animal relationships, sat across from them with a thick folder of documents and images. He was a quiet man with gentle eyes, but the aliens could sense that he was about to tell them something that would disturb them greatly. "It began before we were truly human," Dr. Stone said simply. "About 40,000 years ago, our ancestors met the ancestors of modern dogs. They were wolves then, living in packs and hunting large prey. He showed them a photograph of cave paintings found in France. The images showed early humans and wolf-like creatures standing side by side, clearly working together. These paintings are over 30,000 years old, Dr. Stone continued. They show humans and wolves hunting together, sharing food, even sleeping near each other around fires. But wolves are apex predators, Zach protested. They hunt in coordinated packs. They can bring down prey much larger than themselves. Why would they ally with primitive humans? Because humans offered something wolves needed, Dr. Stone explained. We had tools, weapons, and fire. We could hunt in ways wolves couldn't. And wolves offered us something we needed too. They had better hearing, better smell, and they could track prey over long distances. He showed them more images. Archaeological sites where human and wolf bones were found buried together, clear evidence that these partnerships had been formalized for thousands of years. Over time, both species changed, Dr. Stone said. Humans became better at reading animal behavior. Wolves became more responsive to human signals. Eventually, wolves became dogs, still predators, but predators who had chosen to live with us. Chosen, Marin repeated, his skin turning a pale green. Color. You're saying the predators chose to give up their wild freedom. Not give up, Dr. Stone corrected. Trade. Wild wolves live maybe 6 to 8 years. Domestic dogs live 12 to 15 years. They get regular food, medical care, protection from larger predators, and constant companionship. In return, they give us loyalty, protection, and help with various tasks. The aliens absorbed this information in silence. Finally, Cuthbert spoke. What about the horses? When did you begin riding prey animals? Dr. Stone smiled. That's an interesting story, too. About 6,000 years ago, humans on the grasslands of Asia began capturing wild horses. But we didn't just use them for food. We realized they could carry us, help us travel faster and farther than we ever could on foot. He showed them ancient artwork depicting humans on horseback, charging into battle or racing across open plains. A horse can weigh over 1,000 pounds, Dr. Stone said. It can run at speeds of up to 40 miles per hour. One kick from a horse can kill a human instantly. Yet humans learned to sit on their backs and guide them with nothing more than a leather strap and gentle pressure. The prey animal allows the predator to ride it into danger, Zach said slowly. This makes no evolutionary sense. It does if you understand partnership, Dr. Stone replied. Horses are herd animals. They're used to following leaders. Humans became their leaders, but we also became their protectors. We fought off other predators. We provided them with food during harsh winters. We cared for them when they were sick or injured. And the cats? Marin asked. The small predators we saw at the ranch? Cats domesticated themselves, Dr. Stone said with a chuckle. About 9,000 years ago, when humans began farming and storing grain, mice and rats became a problem. Wild cats discovered that human settlements were full of easy prey. They moved in on their own. He showed them ancient Egyptian artwork depicting cats being worshipped as gods. Humans realized the cats were solving our pest problem, so we started feeding them and giving them shelter. Over time, cats became more social, more affectionate toward humans. But they never lost their independence the way dogs did. You're describing symbiosis, Cuthbert said. But symbiosis between natural enemies. This should not be possible. But it is possible, Dr. Stone said firmly. And it didn't stop with dogs, horses, and cats. Humans have formed working relationships with birds of prey, falcons and hawks that hunt for us and return to our hands. We've trained dolphins to help us find things underwater. We've even worked with elephants, using their strength to move. Heavy objects in exchange for food and care. The aliens were silent for a long moment. Then Zack spoke. You mentioned medical care. You heal your predators when they are sick? Of course, Dr. Stone said. We have doctors who specialize in animal medicine. We call them veterinarians. He called for Dr. Alex Carter, the veterinarian who had treated Thunder's leg at Pete's ranch. Dr. Carter entered the room carrying a medical bag and wearing a white coat. Dr. Carter has been treating animals for over 20 years, Dr. Stone said. He's saved thousands of lives, dogs, cats, horses, and many other species. I don't understand, Marin said. You spend resources to heal creatures that could kill you? They're not just creatures, Dr. Carter said gently. They're patients. They're somebody's beloved companion. When a dog is sick, his human family suffers too. When I heal the dog, I'm helping the entire family. But from a survival standpoint, it makes no sense, Zack protested. If a predator becomes weak or sick, the logical response is to abandon it or put it out of its misery. Maybe for your species, Dr. Carter said. But humans don't think that way. When someone we love is sick, we take care of them. It doesn't matter if they're human or not. Dr. Stone showed them more photographs, modern images of humans with their animal companions. Dogs wearing special vests that identified them as service animals, helping humans with disabilities. Horses being used in therapy programs to help children with emotional problems. Cats living in nursing homes, providing comfort to elderly humans. This is what we call the human-animal bond, Dr. Stone explained. It's not just about usefulness anymore. It's about love, companionship, and mutual support. Love, Kethler repeated. You feel love for predators. And they love us back, Dr. Stone said simply. A dog's brain shows the same chemical reactions when it sees its human as a human brain shows when it sees someone it loves. The bond is real, measurable, and mutual. The aliens sat in stunned silence as Dr. Stone continued showing them evidence of humanity's unique relationship with animals. Pictures of military working dogs serving alongside human soldiers. Search and rescue dogs finding people trapped in disasters. Police horses maintaining order in crowds. Therapy animals providing comfort to people in hospitals. You've built your entire society around these partnerships, Marin observed. In many ways, yes, Dr. Stone agreed. Dogs help us with law enforcement, military operations, and medical detection. Horses helped us explore and settle new lands. Cats protect our food supplies. These relationships aren't just part of our history. They're part of who we are as a species. And you're saying this is normal for humans? Zack asked. All humans form these bonds with predators? Not all, but most, Dr. Stone said. In human culture, we have a saying, a dog is man's best friend. It means that the bond between humans and dogs is one of the strongest, most reliable relationships we know. Stronger than bonds with other humans? Kethler asked. Sometimes, Dr. Stone admitted. Dogs don't lie, they don't betray trust, and they're always happy to see you. Some humans find that kind of unconditional loyalty easier to understand than the complexities of human relationships. The meeting continued for hours as Dr. Stone showed them example after example of human-animal partnerships. By the end, the aliens were overwhelmed by the scope and depth of these relationships. How many species have humans domesticated? Marin asked finally. Dozens directly, Dr. Stone replied. Dogs, cats, horses, cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, chickens, and many others. But we've also formed working relationships with wild animals, dolphins, elephants, falcons, and even some species of whales. And this is considered normal in human society. Completely normal, Dr. Stone confirmed. Most human children grow up with animal companions. We consider it an important part of learning empathy, responsibility, and how to care for others. As the aliens prepared to leave, Cuthbert asked one final question. Dr. Stone, in your opinion, what does this mean for humanity's place in the galaxy? Dr. Stone thought for a moment before answering. It means we're different, he said finally. Most species see the universe as a place where the strong dominate the weak. Humans see it as a place where different strengths can work together. We don't conquer, we cooperate. The aliens left the meeting with their minds reeling. They had come to Earth expecting to meet another typical intelligent species. Instead, they had discovered something that challenged everything they thought they knew about evolution, survival, and the nature of intelligence itself. Humans weren't just another predator species. They were something entirely new, a species that had learned to turn enemies into family. The news spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within days of the alien delegation's report reaching the Galactic Council, representatives from dozens of species were demanding more information about the human anomaly. On the crystal world of Zephyr, the High Council met in emergency session. On the hive worlds of the Insectoid Collective, millions of workers stopped their tasks to listen to the broadcasts. In the deep ocean cities of the Aquatic Federation, entire populations gathered around communication nodes to hear the impossible reports from Earth. Commander Nicole Phillips of Earth's Space Force had been chosen to address the full Galactic Council. She stood in the Great Assembly Hall on the neutral station of Nexus Prime, surrounded by representatives from over 200 different worlds. But she was not alone. Beside her sat Max, a German shepherd who had served as a military working dog for 8 years before becoming Philip's companion and emotional support animal. Max wore a small harness that identified him as a service dog, and he sat calmly despite being surrounded by hundreds of alien beings. Honored representatives, Phillips began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. I am Commander Nicole Phillips of the Earth Space Force, and this is Max. He has served alongside human soldiers, saved countless lives, and now helps me manage the stress of military command. A ripple of sound went through the assembly, clicks, whistles, and rumbles in dozens of different languages. The translators worked frantically to keep up. The creature beside you, came a voice from the Herbivore Alliance section. Our experts classify it as a pack-hunting predator. Why do you bring such a dangerous animal into this peaceful assembly? Phillips looked down at Max, who was panting quietly, his tail giving a small wag at the attention. Max isn't dangerous to anyone here. He's been trained to remain calm in all situations. In fact, his presence here is helping me stay calm as well. You rely on a predator for emotional support? The question came from the Scavenger Federation representative, a being that looked like a cross between a bird and a reptile. Many humans do, Phillips replied. Dogs like Max can sense when their humans are stressed or anxious. They provide comfort and stability. Studies show that humans with animal companions have lower blood pressure, less anxiety, and better overall health. Max seemed to sense that Phillips was talking about him. He looked up at her with bright, attentive eyes, and resumed his calm observation of the room. But surely this creates vulnerability, insisted the representative from the Predator Confederacy, a species that had eliminated all other dangerous animals from their world through systematic hunting. What if the creature turns on you? What if its predatory instincts overcome its training? Phillips smiled and reached down to scratch behind Max's ears. The dog's eyes half closed with pleasure, and his tail beat against the floor. Max has had thousands of opportunities to turn on humans, she said. He's been trained to detect explosives, which means he's often in dangerous situations. He's worked around weapons, loud noises, and stressful combat conditions. In all that time, he has never shown aggression toward any human. Never? The question came from multiple representatives at once. Never, Phillips confirmed. Max was specifically bred and trained to work with humans. His loyalty isn't just learned behavior. It's been bred into his genetics over thousands of generations. Dr. Benjamin Hayes, Earth's leading animal behaviorist, stepped forward to join Phillips at the podium. He carried a portable holographic projector that displayed images as he spoke. What Commander Phillips is describing is the result of careful selective breeding, Dr. Hayes explained. Over thousands of years, humans have bred dogs to enhance traits like loyalty, intelligence, and cooperation while reducing aggression. Toward humans, the hologram showed images of different dog breeds: tiny Chihuahuas, massive Great Danes, sleek Border Collies, and sturdy bulldogs. All of these animals are the same species, Dr. Hayes continued. But through selective breeding, humans have created dogs with different abilities and temperaments. Some are bred for protection, others for companionship, still others for specific types of work. You manipulate their genetics to make them more useful to you, observed the silicon-based collective representative. Not manipulate, guide, Dr. Hayes corrected. We select for traits that benefit both species. Modern domestic dogs live longer, healthier lives than their wild ancestors. They have guaranteed food, medical care, and protection. In return, they provide services that benefit humans and form emotional bonds that benefit both species. But what about the predatory animals that do not cooperate? Asked the Crystalline Union representative. Surely some resist your domestication efforts. Of course, Dr. Hayes acknowledged. Not every species can be domesticated. It requires specific traits, social structure, ability to recognize hierarchy, and willingness to accept human leadership. We don't try to domesticate every predator we encounter. Then how do you deal with the dangerous ones? The question came from the Defensive Alliance, a group of species that lived in constant fear of their planet's apex predators. Phillips answered this one. We manage them. We create protected areas where they can live without threatening human settlements. We study them to better understand their behavior. Sometimes we relocate them if they wander into populated areas. The goal isn't to eliminate them, it's to coexist. Coexist with apex predators? The representative from the Prey Species Coalition sounded incredulous. This is suicide for your species. Actually, it's the opposite, Dr. Hayes said. Predators play important roles in Earth's ecosystems. They control populations of other animals, prevent overgrazing, and maintain balance. Eliminating them would cause ecological collapse. So you protect the very creatures that hunt you, the Herbivore Alliance representative said slowly. We protect the balance of our world, Phillips replied. Some predators we befriend, others we respect from a distance. But we understand that they all have a role to play. The assembly fell silent as they processed this information. Finally, the prime speaker of the Galactic Council, an ancient being whose species had achieved spaceflight before most others had developed fire, spoke. Up, Commander Phillips, Dr. Hayes, we have studied your reports extensively. What troubles us most is not just your relationships with individual predators, but the implications for galactic society. If your methods were to spread to other worlds, other species could benefit from similar partnerships. Phillips finished. We're not suggesting that every species should adopt our exact approach, but the principles of cooperation, mutual benefit, and respect for other forms of intelligence could be applied more broadly. You would teach other species to befriend their predators? The question came from the military caste representative, a species that had built their entire civilization around warfare. We would teach them to look for opportunities for cooperation, instead of always assuming conflict is inevitable. Dr. Hayes said, on every world, there are probably species that could work together for mutual benefit. But most civilizations never consider the possibility. Max, who had been sitting patiently throughout the entire presentation, suddenly stood up and walked to the edge of the platform. He sat down again, but now he was facing the alien audience directly. His posture was alert but relaxed, and his tail wagged slowly as he looked out at the hundreds of representatives. The effect was immediate and profound. Here was a creature that every alien's instincts told them was dangerous, sitting calmly. In front of them with no restraints, no weapons pointed at him, no barriers between him and potential prey. He could attack any of them, but instead he sat peacefully, his eyes bright with curiosity rather than hunger. "He's looking at us," whispered the representative from the timid herbivore collective. "He's not showing any signs of aggression," observed the military caste representative, his sensors confirming what his eyes could see. Philip smiled. "Max is curious about all of you. He's never seen so many different species in one place. But his training and his nature tell him to remain calm unless I give him a command or he perceives a direct threat to me. And if someone here did threaten—" "You?" asked the prime speaker. "Then Max would protect me," Philip said simply. "He would put himself between me and the threat, and if necessary, he would fight to defend me. But he would never attack unprovoked, and he would stop the moment." The threat was neutralized. "A predator with discipline," the silicon-based collective representative said in wonder. "A creature capable of violence that chooses restraint." Representative Tony Clark from Earth's Agricultural Department approached the podium, carrying a datapad filled with statistics. "If I may," he said to the assembly, "I'd like to share some numbers that might help you understand the scope of human-animal cooperation." The holographic display changed to show charts and graphs. "On Earth, there are currently over 900 million domestic dogs," Clark began. "They work in law enforcement, military operations, search and rescue, medical detection, therapy, and countless other roles. There are over 600 million domestic cats, helping to control pest populations worldwide." He changed the display to show images of working animals. "We have 60 million horses providing transportation, recreation, and therapy services. Millions of cattle, sheep, and other livestock." 6 months after Commander Phillips' presentation to the Galactic Council, the galaxy was still trying to understand what humanity meant for the future of interstellar civilization. The Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime had been converted into a permanent research center where representatives from hundreds of worlds came to study the human phenomenon. Ambassador Kethfer stood at the observation deck, watching as a group of young aliens from various species took their first tentative steps toward understanding human-animal relationships. Below them, Dr. Lisa Adams was conducting what humans called a petting zoo, a collection of gentle Earth animals that visitors could safely interact with. "The Herbivore Alliance younglings are adapting fastest," observed Hive Speaker Zach, his translator device crackling with excitement. "They understand prey behavior, so they can comprehend why horses and rabbits might trust humans. But watch," the Predator Confederacy representatives, Depth Lord Marin added, his skin shifting from blue to purple as he spoke. "They are struggling with the concept that strength can be gentle." On the floor below, a young crystalline being from Zephyr was carefully stroking a golden retriever named Buddy. The dog's tail wagged steadily as he sat patiently, allowing the alien child to explore his fur with delicate crystal fingers. "Soft," the young Zephyrian said in wonder. "The predator is warm and soft." Buddy seemed to sense the child's amazement. He gently licked the crystal being's hand, causing a tinkling sound like wind chimes. The young alien laughed, a beautiful, musical sound that made Buddy's tail wag even harder. Dr. Adams smiled as she watched the interaction. Buddy was specifically chosen for this program because of his gentle temperament. He's been working with children for years. Working with children? The question came from an adult representative of the Cautious Herbivore Coalition. "You allow your young to interact with predators?" Human children often grow up with animal companions, Dr. Adams explained. We believe it teaches them empathy, responsibility, and how to read nonverbal communication. Studies show that children who grow up with pets develop better social skills. A small commotion erupted in one corner of the room. A young insectoid from the Hive Collective had become frightened when a cat named Mittens had approached to investigate. The child's fear pheromones had triggered defensive responses in several adult insects, but something unexpected happened. Mittens, instead of running away from the obviously distressed aliens, sat down at a respectful distance and began to purr. The low, rumbling sound seemed to have a calming effect on the young insectoid. The predator is ... singing? Asked the child's caretaker. Purring, Dr. Adams corrected gently. It's how cats show contentment and offer comfort. Mittens can sense that your child is scared, so she's trying to help. The predator wants to help our young? The adult insectoid's translator struggled with the concept. Cats are very good at reading emotions, Dr. Adams explained. They often seek out humans who are sad or stressed and try to comfort them. Slowly, carefully, the young insectoid approached Mittens. The cat remained perfectly still, continuing to purr. When the child was close enough, Mittens very gently rubbed her head against the young alien's leg. The purring intensified, and the child's fear pheromones began to fade, replaced by curiosity chemicals that made the adult insects relax. Remarkable, murmured the prime speaker, who had been observing from the upper level. The predator not only refrains from attacking, but actively seeks to calm and comfort potential prey. Admiral Susan Torres entered the observation deck, accompanied by a familiar figure, Titan, the dog who had been trained for space operations. Titan now wore a special harness with small thrusters that allowed him to navigate in zero gravity. How goes the cultural exchange program? Torres asked, joining the group of alien ambassadors. Beyond our expectations, Kethver replied. We have had requests from 47 different worlds to establish similar programs on their home planets. 47? Torres looked surprised. That's more than we hoped for. The young adapt faster than the adults, Marin observed. They have fewer preconceptions about what is possible. As if to prove his point, a group of alien children had surrounded a boarder, collie named Scout. They watched in fascination as the dog demonstrated his herding abilities with a small flock of robotic sheep designed for the demonstration. Scout moved with fluid grace, circling the mechanical animals and guiding them into formation with nothing more than his presence and movement. The alien children tried to mimic his actions, but they moved too fast, too aggressive. Scout sat down and watched them, his head tilted in what humans recognized as confusion. Why doesn't it work when we do it? Asked a young amphibian from the Swamp World's Federation. Dr. Adams knelt down beside the children. Scout uses very specific body language to communicate with the sheep. He moves slowly and calmly so they don't panic. When you move too fast, the sheep think you're attacking. But we're not predators, protested a young silicon-based child. Why would they fear us? Because you're acting like predators, Dr. Adams explained patiently. It's not about what you are. It's about how you behave. Scout has learned to behave in a way that makes the sheep trust him. The children tried again, this time moving more slowly and calmly. To their amazement, the robotic sheep began to respond, moving away from them in the desired direction. We're herding, exclaimed the young amphibian. We're making them move without touching them. You're communicating, Dr. Adams corrected. You're using body language to tell them what you want, and they're choosing to cooperate. The lesson was not lost on the adult observers. Several representatives began taking notes on their personal devices. Cooperation through communication rather than domination through force, the prime speaker murmured. A fundamentally different approach to leadership. The day's most significant moment came when Emma Johnson, Pete's granddaughter, arrived for a special presentation. Now 9 years old, she had been chosen to demonstrate the depth of human-animal bonds because of her natural ease with animals. Emma entered the room with Belle, the border collie from her grandfather's ranch, and a new companion, a young horse named Star that she had been training herself. "This is Star," Emma announced to the assembled aliens with the confidence that only children possess. "I've been teaching her to trust people. She was scared of humans when we first got her, but now we're best friends." The aliens watched in stunned silence as this small human child led a creature 20 times her weight around the room. Star followed Emma willingly, responding to gentle touches and quiet words. "How do you control such a large animal?" asked a representative from the Heavy World Alliance, whose species was known for their strength. "I don't control her," Emma said, looking confused by the question. "I ask her to do things, and she does them because she wants to. Right, Star?" The horse nickered softly and nuzzled Emma's shoulder, nearly knocking the child over. Emma giggled and hugged Star's massive head. "The child shows no fear," observed the Predator Confederacy representative. "Why would I be afraid of Star?" Emma asked. "She's my friend. Friends don't hurt each other." The simple statement hit the assembled aliens like a physical blow. Here was a fundamental truth that their civilizations had never grasped, that friendship could exist between natural enemies, that trust could replace fear, that love could overcome instinct. Dr. Morgan, the xenopsychologist, stepped forward to address the group. "What you're seeing here represents the next stage of evolution. Not biological evolution, but social evolution. Humans have learned to form emotional bonds across species lines. We've discovered that intelligence and consciousness create opportunities for connection that transcend natural barriers." "And you believe other species could learn this?" asked the prime speaker. "We believe consciousness itself creates this possibility," Dr. Morgan replied. "Every species here has the capacity for emotion, for forming bonds, for choosing cooperation over conflict. The question is whether you're willing to try." The Galactic Council reconvened that evening in formal session. After hours of debate, they reached a unanimous decision that would reshape the galaxy. The Galactic Council hereby establishes the Interspecies Cooperation Institute, the prime speaker announced formally. This institute will be jointly administered by humans and representatives from all member worlds. Its mission will be to study, understand, and where appropriate, implement programs designed to foster cooperation between different forms of intelligent life. Furthermore, the prime speaker continued, humanity is hereby granted a new classification. You are no longer simply sapient predators or tool-using mammals. You are now officially designated as symbiotic consciousness facilitators, a species uniquely gifted in creating cooperative relationships across biological boundaries. Announcement was met with a mixture of cheers, clicks, whistles, and other expressions of approval from the assembled representatives. Captain Jake Morrison and Rex were called forward to receive the first official recognition under this new classification. They stood at the center of the Great Hall, surrounded by beings from across the galaxy, representing a partnership that had begun in a simple field outside Denver, but had grown to change the course of galactic civilization. "You came to us as strangers," Jake say,